Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We just got ourselves a little preview of Season 2 of Star Wars Resistance, and it's got some pretty interesting looking things in here, some new ships, some new characters, and we're going to kind of run through all of it. The First Order definitely is going to be trying to track down our Resistance crew, and look at this. So, the Colossus has, emerged out of hyperspace and is going to be searching for another home. That's kind of one of the themes we get from this trailer. And definitely going to see a lot of new worlds, a lot of new aliens. One of the things we learn is that they are low on supplies, low on fuel, trying to, kind of fall into this classic trope of we have to constantly find more fuel and make more repairs every single week. And that is probably how it is going to run. We also know that the pirates that were on board are having disagreements with the leadership on board the Colossus, and you're going to see a little bit of an internal power struggle on board, and so that certainly allows for more conflict and more character growth and development. Now, one of the things is we're seeing a lot of beautiful alien worlds, a lot of different creatures that are going to be interacting. This is kind of in a similar vein from a lot of things that we did see in Star Wars Rebels. It seems like they're borrowing that. Some of these worlds have more of a tropical or even jungle feel to them, so some will look familiar, and you're going to definitely see a lot more color in Season 2 than you saw in Season 1, which definitely may be something that is a welcome change for a lot of folks. Kind of digging the whole Hoth attire that they have here, although I'm wondering why they may have packed winter coats when they were on a tropical world in the first place, unless maybe they went shopping somewhere in between episodes for this particular scene, which is pretty interesting. Now, we do see Tam continue her indoctrination into the First Order, and she is under a lot of pressure to express loyalty, and we're starting to see potentially some of the conflict within her as they are trying to track down the Colossus. That's definitely something that's one of the goals here. Tam is training as a TIE fighter pilot, which is going to be cool, and that is definitely going to mean that we're going to see a lot more of the First Order and of the First Order's cockpits and ships and fighter pilots and a lot of that aspect, which I really like. I'm very anxious to see more from that, from this type of stuff, launching TIEs flying together, more squadron tactics and formations, and possibly, some episodes that kind of focus on both sides of this conflict to really kind of delve deeper into the First Order. And I think that's going to be, an excellent thing. We're going to see more cameos, too. We're going to see Captain Phasma show up and try to, tell these guys, hey, you find them, you do your stuff. It's definitely going to be an aspect of it. And it does kind of appear that, that this section of the First Order is tasked with just hunting down the Resistance for the Colossus. So I think, you're going to see very much of a segmented part of a, one Resistance cell versus one First Order cell, so to speak. We're going to see some new characters. We get these kind of almost Death Trooper looking First Order characters. I'm not sure what their particular role is. There's some kind of Spec Ops or Special Forces First Order that is not red paint on them. That's just more of a red glow. They look more like they're black and gray with maybe a red pauldron there. But we have new types of characters. We also are going to see some X-Wings. It looks like we get a little bit of an X-Wing here being chased away by TIE fighters being launched out of this First Order Star Destroyer. And we're also seeing a couple of other ships flying with First Order TIEs. I'm not sure if this is the TIE Echelon or some other type of fighter, but it's a little larger than a TIE fighter. Maybe this is a First Order bomber. I'm not sure, but we're seeing, 3 of these in this particular shot as they make their way towards some type of planetary surface. Looks like this may be that tropical planet that we see earlier. Some type of archipelago down below would definitely work its way towards a lot of the tropical stuff that we've seen. Now, one of the things we learned from the trailer is that they're somehow able to track the Colossus, so we're getting a little bit of Episode 8's tracking. It's unclear whether they're using the exact same tools that are present in episode 8, or if somehow Tam here is able to, knows something about, like, oh, well, I know the energy signature of the Colossus, so I can help you track them. But it looks like we're going to get a little bit of conflict of, does she betray her old friends, or does she continue to help her new friends? And I thought, that allows for a lot of different things. She could end up becoming, a betrayer of the First Order, or maybe a prominent First Order pilot who does betray her friends and is conflicted about it and ends up becoming somebody we may see in episode 9. This series will take us past episode 8, and it's going to be separated. So it's going to be very interesting the way that it works out, especially with the new ships that we're going to see. We see this kind of X-Wing looking ship, and that's definitely not an X-Wing. Actually, it reminds me more like something we'd see out of The Last Starfighter, which is it's a really cool design with its looks like 4 firing wings or blasters, or that kind of that. Almost like it maybe inspired by an X-Wing's design, but definitely taken in a different direction here. And we see this new ship flying a couple of different times, and in some cases looks like it's flying with the fireball, and in another case it looks like it's shooting against some of our racers or our aces. So that much is interesting. We also see a ship here that looks like it may be a new version of the VT-49 Decimator, which would be really exciting to actually see a Decimator on this show. Obviously a repainted version, and obviously maybe a Mark II, or maybe even a cannibalized version, because Decimators at this point would be quite old, but potentially not too old to be in service. We know that the pirates have had a ton of hodgepodge mixed together old ships, but it looks like this is definitely has the potential to be a Decimator's hull or chassis, and that has been probably modified with some extra guns on the fore side. Looks very, very potentially cool. The Crimson Corsair, and they're bounty hunters that are going to be in some episodes, where they definitely make clear that bounty hunters are going to be a part of this. We get a glimpse of the Crimson Corsair, as well as this amazing looking bounty hunter. Don't know much about him, but it looks like he's straight out of Skyrim meets Star Wars, so we're going to call him the Dragonborn. That's going to be what I'm calling him, is our Dragonborn bounty hunter. By the way, is it just me, or did I look at his armor and notice a little color scheme that harkens back a little bit to Boba Fett? Possibly, just a little bit, with kind of that bluish teal hybrid with the orange and red and with the gray. It's like he's pretty clearly got some. I think the armor coloring here was meant to evoke just a little bit of Boba Fett. And wouldn't it be something if this turned out to be Boba Fett? Let me know in the comments below if you think there's any chance that we might have some type of Boba Fett connection, like if he's a really older individual now, an old Boba Fett in this new Dragonborn armor, which looks really, really cool. We're going to see some Clone Wars flashbacks too, some reactivated B2 super battle droids, which are very, very cool looking. Very excited to see some old Clone Wars stuff come back, and it's unclear who is using them at this point, whether it's the good guys or the bad guys. Who are they going to work for? Because clearly droids could be reprogrammed. Now, if you have kids and you were afraid that maybe this show was going to get a little bit too mature, it definitely has a lot of the humor and antics and silliness that episode or season 1 had. Now, that may be a turnoff to some of you. I was not the biggest fan of all the goofy shenanigans that Kazuda manages to find himself in, like walking backwards while talking about how careful he is and falling down, almost like, deadpan comedy. It's just, I could do without that, but I'm all right because, hey, I do watch the show with my kids. They enjoy it, so it will still be family friendly and child appropriate while advancing a little bit more. We're definitely going to get more eye candy for the adults, but we're not going to lose all of that. We are going to also have our racers, our aces from the first season as well, and we're going to have plenty of what you may have liked about season 1 while expanding more on what I think a lot of older Star Wars fans may want. in Season 2. We're going to get more aliens. We're going to get a lot more creatures and societies and a lot of interactions with some new characters, very cool looking characters too, like these underwater kind of merfolk type characters look very cool. More giant creatures. This one, I don't even know what in the world this is. Some type of mushroom monster eating thing. I have no idea, but very, very creepy stuff to give you nightmares for sure. And it looks like they will also talk a little bit with the Force, the little brother and sister that appeared to be Force sensitive in first season, are going to find what looks like it might be some type of Jedi temple. Although it's difficult for me to tell you exactly, I cannot read the writing on the walls. But they talk about this ancient power source. There's a mystic guide that's trying to tell them a little bit about it. It looks like we do have some runes or writing in red in the back, which the fact that it looks like it's in gold makes you think it's good, but then the writing being in red might be bad, so it might not be Jedi related at all. It could actually be some type of Bendu related artifact or something that is independent of either the light or the dark specifically. If I were a betting person, I might bet that it is somehow separate from both the light and the dark, but still mystic or force related in nature. Maybe some ancient holocron that predates both the Sith and the Jedi, potentially, depending on where they go. We know that they are certainly trying to expand on the Force and the ways that people can be Force users, and that's evidenced by some of the new Thrawn books, and the way that the Chiss use the Force as well is very different than what we're experienced with, and so it would not surprise me if this whole story arc with this ancient temple ends up expanding the Force in even new ways that make it more accessible for them to work with, for Disney to work with in the future. One of the most interesting things about this particular trailer is that while the credits are rolling and it says this fall, it says the epic conclusion. So does this mean Season 2 is the end of the entire Star Wars Resistance? Is this the final season? Will we get a series finale in conjunction with our Season 2 finale? Is this it? This certainly implies that they are not doing a Season 3 of Star Wars Resistance. They have said this is the epic conclusion. So, and this was put out at the end of the trailer, so it's not like, they certainly do not imply that this is the epic conclusion to the, a cliffhanger from Season 1. No, this is the epic conclusion to the entire series, or so it is presented to us. So it definitely seems like they will not be doing a Resistance Season 3, and probably instead will focus on entirely new programs for Disney+, which is also launching this fall. Towards the end of the trailer, we're also treated to like a disco party type space station that is seems to be under the control of another Hutt character, and that definitely knows Hype Faison, who is voiced by Donald Faison, who is Turk from Scrubs, as well as many other amazing characters, and he is pretty much wonderful. So that will, I'm sure, be a fun episode. No doubt about that. We also see some really cool looking red ships that are going, firing at the fireball in this particular scene in a very, very dense asteroid field. And I'm curious if these are mining ships or if they are more in the style of some type of YT freighter. They almost look as far as being wide enough to potentially be something in the spirit of a YT freighter. That would actually be really cool if we were to see some more YTs that were in use by other folks, and painted red would be a great way to really make it stand out that this is not the YT that you're used to, although it might not be YT series at all. It's kind of difficult to tell from the limited angles that we were shown. At least in one episode, it appears that Kaz is going to try and go undercover and sneak on board. And is it just me, or does he have something very, very much like Matt the radar technician from Saturday Night Live, where Kylo Ren goes undercover in the Undercover Boss series? We're totally getting Kazuda the radar technician right here, and I love that. I love that they did a deep cut to Saturday Night Live in this episode. It's absolutely fantastic, and I could not be more thrilled with just that subtle throwback. It's just, it makes me smile And I know it's silly and it's goofy, but that one thing right there really makes me smile. And then we're getting, it looks like they're going to at some point join up with the Greater Resistance, and they're going to get some of the shuttles in the background look kind of like some of the shuttles we may have seen in Episode 8. But we're also seeing some X-Wings. Now, to me, from this angle, at least this front X-Wing looks like a T-85. It is definitely different than the X-Wings behind it, which are clearly T-70s. And in the top right, we can see a Fireball in the back side as well. But the engines are much, much larger on here. This is not a T-70 X-Wing. This is clearly a T-85. Also, look at the guns. It only has guns on the top and not on the bottom, and it makes me wonder, where this one came from and who's flying it. So, a lot of X-Wing related questions in this particular shot, but looks cool, and I love the look of it too. You've got the wingmen behind, and they're just like, all right, let's take it to it. Could this be our aces getting upgraded fighters that are more than just racers, but really built for some serious space combat? And at the end, we finally see Kylo Ren will be in this one, although it does not appear that he is voiced by Adam Driver. So that is our Star Wars Resistance trailer for Season 2. It looks like it's going to have a lot of cool little stuff, a lot of new ships, a lot of new aliens, a lot of new creatures, some deep cuts, and we'll see how they try to wrap up the entire story. Will be very interesting because at one point, Episode 9 is probably going to come out generally when a show like this has its mid-season break. So that means the first half will probably take us very close to Episode 9, whereas the second half of Season 2 may actually take us past Episode 9, or potentially lead up to something that happens in Episode 9. Either way, it does look like this is going to wrap up all of Star Wars Resistance. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you. Let me know what you think of this trailer down in the description below. I will put a link to the whole trailer so you can watch the full thing. But let me know what you think. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I also want to thank my patrons on Patreon. You guys are amazing. I want to thank you all so much. And as always, have a great day.